It was during the 16th and 17th centuries that the African American history began, with Africans being brought to North America as slaves. A slave, a human being who is taken as legal property by another human being and is now forced to obey that human being. The thought of a race of people who would deem themselves superior, master, and owner of another race because of having white skin is unfathomable. To think that having white skin made one privileged to the point that they would look at a human being with black skin and deem them as property, to be owned as if an animal, and to go by through any means to break their human spirit, to force them to obey, is difficult to comprehend. It is absolutely unthinkable. And yet it is Black history that we see our ancestors. They were packed in boats and taken from their country to a land unknown to them. And many would jump off the ships in order to escape being enslaved and drown in the ocean. Still others died on the boat because of such inhumane conditions that were being inflicted upon them. America, a country built by an enslaved people that would endure such cruelty, harsh beatings, families separated by being sold on auction blocks, forced to live on plantations, made to perform harsh labor working in fields harvesting the agriculture, women taken from their husbands and children and raped, working in homes, cooking the food and cleaning and caring for the children of the masters. For the white man felt they were the entitled race. Black people, born to be free, now enslaved with no voice and no opportunity to excel. And yet, a human being just as equal, but treated as less than because of the darker shade of skin. And yet, these Black people knew they were equal to the white man. But how do you become free when forced to be a slave? It was people like Harriet Tubman who refused to believe the lie that she and her people were less than, and she led many to freedom through the Underground Railroad. Freedom, freedom, empowered with the right to speak and do what one wants to do without hindrance or restraint. It was January 1st, 1863, that the Emancipation Proclamation was issued because the nation was facing its third year of a bloody civil war. The proclamation declared that people held as slaves within the rebellious states were henceforth to be free. And President Abraham Lincoln had threatened to free all slaves in the states of rebellion if those rebellious states didn't return to the Union by January 1st, 1863. The Emancipation Proclamation didn't free all slaves in the United States. It declared freedom to only those slaves living in states not under Union control. The Emancipation Proclamation extended freedom to people in slavery in Confederate states who remained under open rebellion. June 19th, known as Juneteenth, marked the day that Major General Gordon Granger of the Union Army read federal orders in the city of Galveston, Texas on June 19, 1865. It was stated that all slaves in Texas were now free. So in Texas, slaves were made to work 2 extra years by their owners, unbeknownst to them that slavery was already abolished in other free states. Free but enslaved. And now free again in 1863. But yet slavery remained in Texas. And in 1865, freedom was announced in Texas. June 19th, 1866, the free slaves celebrated their freedom in Texas, and it has been celebrated yearly since then. In 2020, amid the many killings of Black Americans by police and other violence that took place, there were many nationwide protests comprised of people of all ethnicities. It was in June of 2020 that President Joe Biden signed the legislation that made Juneteenth a federal holiday. Freedom, freedom, empowered with the right to speak and do what one wants to do without hindrance or restraint. Many have boldly taken a stand for our freedom, for our civil rights throughout the many years. They have proven to be influential by exercising their freedom to advance the rights of Black people. People like Frederick Douglass, Martin Luther King, Rosa Parks, just to name a few, use their freedom to excel and to help others. So, you are free today. But I ask you a question. Are you really free? If you are in bondage to drugs and alcohol, if you're condoning violence, if you are filling up the prisons and you're incarcerated, if you are not taking education seriously or exercising your right to vote, I ask the question, are you exercising your freedom? Are you really free? There have been so many sacrifices and so many lives given to grant your freedom. Do not place yourself in bondage again. On Juneteenth, I say, yes, we have much to sing about. On June 19th, today, I say we have much to dance about and we have much to celebrate. And yes, we eat wonderful food and we smile and we fellowship on Juneteenth. But please remember, my sisters and my brothers, the struggle, the bloodshed for our freedom, and be empowered not to be complacent. Do not be in bondage by another person. Do not place yourself in bondage to a substance. Do not place yourself in bondage by not trying to excel to be your strongest, by not trying to excel to be your wisest, by not trying to accomplish the great things that were thought impossible that your Creator created you to do. You were created to be businessmen and businesswomen, lawyers, doctors. There is nothing you can attain. Do not, and I say do not place yourself in bondage again by living but not excelling to be your greatest. Celebrate those who were before us. Now celebrate you. You are free. You are free to be nothing but the best.